welcome. It's the Pro Synth Network show, episode 150. I like that. It's a nice round number. 6 more shows, and it will be our 3rd birthday. Woohoo! Blimey, time flies. Welcome, one and all. I hope you're all very, very well. Hope you've had a great week since last we met. We've got a great guest for you today, as we always tend to do. And so we've got a little bit of news to talk about, a few little things, nothing major, nothing massive, something rather amusing, something rather interesting. So some cool stuff to talk about over the next couple of hours. And before we get to see who else is in the room with me tonight, let me just first of all remind you to like, comment, subscribe and share. You can click the thumb button apparently underneath this video as you're watching it on YouTube. And that helps with our algorithms and stuff. Of course, if you want to comment, you can do so in the chat, which is over on the right-hand side or below or wherever you choose to have it. If you're watching after the fact, thank you for coming back to see us, and you can also comment in the comments below. Polite stuff only, please. You can also subscribe to make sure that you get a warning and a message for all upcoming shows. And of course, if you know somebody who doesn't watch the show but you think they might like it, then please feel free to share the links around all of your socials, as the kids say. So thank you for that. Of course, you can find us across said socials at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, which is where the main group is, and of course right here on YouTube. And we broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch and Twitter. So wherever you are, you can send us a message live during the show. We will see that. Unfortunately, if you're on different platforms, you won't see comments from other people yet. We're not that far advanced. If you have a question for any of us tonight, including our guest, please prefix the question with a big capital Q, because our eyes aren't what they used to be, and it just helps us pick them out and put them into the little bucket where we can then fling those randomly at various people. And I think that's where I'm going to stop, because I discovered last night, or somebody told me, that Vipergraphics website isn't working at the moment. It's normally vipergraphics.co.uk, where you can buy our merch. See, finally got this out of the wash. So we need to sort something out in that regard. But if you're desperate for stuff, let us know, and then we'll see if we can sort something out. Right, that is all of that stuff taken out of the way. Now let me bring in, first of all, our esteemed leader, the man who started it all. It's all his fault. It's Mr. Ben Simpson. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
I'm well, yeah. I'm not too bad at all.
Must be a little
bit
warm in
cold
there. Well, I was just about to say you must be warmer because you've not wrapped up to the nines.
Oh, I've got a t-shirt. I've got like a sleeved shirt on underneath the t-shirt and a hoodie and the cap.
Has it not been warm up there today? Because it's been about 15, 16 degrees here in the south.
I've not been out the studio today.
Oh, it's grim up north, isn't it?
No, I've not been outside. And for reasons that I can't disclose, I was up till 7 o'clock this morning messing on something.
Really? Oh, was that?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's software based.
Yes.
Okay. Don't get nasty. You know.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. But are you well? Are you well?
Yeah. I'm good. Yeah. I've had a few weekends off gigging.
Yeah.
And like last week was Vicky's birthday, so we've been
Happy birthday, Vicky.
Been off work all week as well, so. I think the time I should have been dedicating to her, I've been dedicating to the studio, and I've just I kind of locked myself away, really.
And she's still with you?
Yeah, she knows. She understands.
I think all of our partners are very understanding, aren't they? I was talking to mine today, and I was telling her about Fiona, Kent's much better half. And she said, "Oh God, I sympathise," because I was telling where Kent stores all his equipment, and she basically said, "If you did that, I would leave you." So I'm off to buy half a dozen synths and stick them in the downstairs loo tomorrow. Anyway, talking of this gentleman, here he is, Mr. Kent Spong. Good evening, sir.
Bonjour.
How are you?
Okay.
Good. All technically sorted because you had a bit of a mare last night.
Yeah. She's all back together now.
Good.
So ready to go out on Monday.
Nice.
So I'm not looking forward to humping an 80 up to the front door. I must admit.
Yes, be careful how you say that.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And we shan't mention the JD 800. Oh, sorry, I just did.
You just did.
Oh,
Sorry,
what's
Fiona,
this?
if you're watching. Oh, no, I don't want to embarrass her anymore. Or do we? No.
Yeah, go on.
Fiona accidentally knocked over a JD 800 and it landed on, did you say it was a joystick?
Joystick first, yeah.
So, yeah.
Smashed it right through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a shame. What you doing with the key membrane?
Do you know what? This is what's
It'll
so
cost-
funny about it. It's the one thing that doesn't work on it, or didn't work on
That's
it.
what it was. Yeah, that's what it was in for.
Yeah, weirdly enough. Weirdly enough.
Poor girl. Poor girl.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Anyway.
Oh dear.
Other than that, everything good in the Spong household?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Good.
Yeah, just
Good.
trying to figure out where to put new large pieces of equipment.
Oh, that. Yes, right. Okay. Yes, well, we'll talk later.
We'll see how that gets on.
Indeed. Good to see you as always, Ken. Right.
And you?
So we have a guest for you. It's the first time on the show. Because we're getting to be one of those shows now where we can welcome back guests because we've had so many, we are getting them back. But this is this gentleman's first time on the show. Now, I've been a big fan of said gentleman for a while, and he's been incredibly generous to me in many ways over the years, not least with his spectacular video content, which really is highly amusing, highly entertaining. It makes me very envious, some of these things, because, look, it's just stunning stuff. And he's also just a super, super nice person. You might know him as Banjo Guy Ollie or BG Ollie. We just know him as Ollie. Welcome to the show.
How are you doing?
Very well indeed. Good to see you. So let's let everybody know about you. You are a musician. You are a retro computer enthusiast. I think it's the polite way of putting it. You have a massive thing about arcade machines. You have modular. You have FM. You're a painter and an artist. You are a consummate musician with skills in banjos and all sorts of, all those kind of things. I don't really know much about them, so I'm going to stop there. Surfing, I think, is another thing that you do really well. I mean, tell me, is there anything that Ollie can't do?
Well, my Fiona says it's cooking and cleaning, but she's never seen me do any of it, so I don't know where she gets the sources from.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
We'll need to take some pictures. So, yeah, I mean, this is your first time on the show, and I know when I approached you, you said, why do you want me on the show? I don't really do that much synthesizers, but you kind of do, because you've got how many YouTube channels?
Well, I have two main ones, but I've four.
Yeah, I've got two, not four.
But I have the Banjo Guy Ollie is the main one.
Yeah.
It's where I do most of the acoustic and some synth stuff, and then all my repairs up and arcade repairs and retro gaming repairs and that kind of stuff happens on another channel called the 8-Bit Man Shed, and then I have a French vlog that I sort of started for my family, but people wanted to know about that, and I have another channel called No Banjo Guy Ollie, because
a lot of
it
thought
doesn't
went
have
into
any banjo on it, so yeah.
So how did it all start, this whole YouTubing thing with your banjos? Because you're using banjos and you're playing like techno songs on a banjo or games themes on a banjo. How did that happen?
You mentioned I was a painter for a while, and I'd stopped playing music back in 2008 or something like that. I completely stopped playing music, but one day I was getting tired with the painting, and one day I saw this guy on YouTube called Smooth McGroove, who does a cappella covers of video games, and I reached out to him and I asked him if have you done any from this game, like these tunes from a game called Hawken on the Amiga? And he said no, and I don't have any plans to. So I was like, okay, well, I'll try it, I'll do it. So Yeah, that's. I wanted to get back into playing music. I had been playing Irish music, Celtic music in general, but Irish music in Ireland for, I don't know, 25 years at this stage. And I wanted something else. So I picked up an instrument that I wasn't quite very familiar with, the tenor banjo, and I opened the channel, or I actually recorded the stuff, the video, opened the channel, and next thing I know, I think a week later I had about 2,000 subscribers on that channel. So I thought, oh, maybe there's something in it. And yeah, I think that was 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and now you're up to nearly 68,500 subscribers on that channel alone.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And 8-Bit Manshed's up to almost 8,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're doing something right. We need to tap you up and get some advice here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it went downhill or it went well for me, but here we are.
Indeed. So let me just bring this up on the screen here. This is the main, I guess the main channel, isn't it? BG Ollie. Where is it? It's gone. There it is. Right. Sorry, I've gone back to using Chrome I was using Opera for a while, but I've had to kind of, for various reasons, go back to Chrome. I'm a little bit discombobulated, as they say. So there you go. BG Ollie is the main channel there. Go and give that a subscribe, because you will not be disappointed. Especially if you think banjo, I have no interest in banjos. Don't worry about that, because there's all this kind of modular stuff on there and video game music, and there's even DX7s and DX21s, which you've been very fortunate with recently when you picked up a couple of those for next to nothing.
In the space of, I'd say, 6 months, I ended up with a DX7 and DX21 and a Core Game 1, and that were all for just under €100 each. So yeah, they were great finds, and I don't have any room for them because it's a tiny space, and most of it is used. I have a giant wall here that is full of acoustic instruments, so priority goes to that as far as space. You can see, like, I think this is the M1, so I need to find either another room or a solution for this problem.
I think we all understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, we'll talk a bit more in depth about what you do on your channels and what you do in your 8-Bit Manshed and all that other stuff. But I want to address, I guess, the big kind of topic that's been in all of our minds, literally for the last week, because when we came off air last Friday, we had the news confirmed that one of our very own had passed on in quite tragic circumstances, and of course we all know that as Dominic Hawken, and we knew Dom wasn't well, and we knew that things were tough, but then to have that kind of confirmation come through on Friday was a real blow to obviously his family and his closest friends, but much to the wider community's shock as well. And I think it's kind of testament to who Dom was, that in a relative short space of time, because I think Dom and us had kind of been on YouTube now for about the same length of time. I think Dom started either a little before or a little after we did with his own Mr. Wiggly channel, and we'd known him before from appearing on Sonic State and various other places. And we instantly kind of, fell in love with a guy, which is not very difficult to do at all. And he was a great supporter of ours. He came on the show as a guest a few times, and we were super happy to have him on because he, just lights up the room. And also, of course, he deputized for myself at least one or two occasions. And so he did a sterling job and just, instantly just dropped in and felt like he was right at home. And outside of the show, this is my personal perspective, Dom and I would talk quite a bit offline, and we'd talk about running a channel and doing certain things and how to handle various bits and bobs, and he was always really gracious with his time, and I always appreciated his input and his wisdom and his enthusiasm and his bloody awful tendency to always look on the bright side. And I think that's something I think we can all remember him from. In a little while, I'm going to play a couple of clips. Now, I know that some people might find these difficult, but I really felt that they demonstrated the guy that he was. But before I do that, gentlemen, I just wanted to kind of open it up to you guys if you felt like you had anything to add or anything to say about that, and have at it.
I'll add like my own personal thing from it, and it was just such a awful shock, that he'd gone. And I'd only known him since he'd been involved in the show, really. But I remember watching Sonic Steak one night. This is before I knew him, and I'd never seen him before. And this seemed like really bubbly, crazy guy came on with this incinerating thing. What
the incinerator.
Yeah, and
this incinerating thing. Yeah, big dustbin. Yeah,
big bin, and he was like dangling mics into it and everything. I thought, oh, this guy's like bonkers.
Yeah,
I'm into this. Like, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing, we had this guest on, and it was only when he actually appeared in the show that I realised it was the same fella. So I was like buzzing then. It was like, nice one. He obviously was like really accommodating and such a nice guy. And I ended up going on his show, and I felt really bad about that because he said, "You have seen the show, haven't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "I watch it every week." Didn't have a clue what was coming, and that was my own fault because I thought, I just imagined it'd be like this, just I'd go on and he'd ask me how I got into synths and stuff, and it was a bit like that. But then the Lula May thing happened, and I just didn't have a clue. I thought, oh man, I've missed a load of information here while I've been daydreaming. And I'm supposed to know these answers, and I was. If you watch it back, knowing that I didn't have a clue what was going on, it is quite funny.
It makes sense.
But he was just such a nice guy, and he used to ask me about the band, and like outside of any YouTube stuff, and he'd just say how have you done that? And he was very, very curious as how we got so accurate on the songs. And he said, hey, I'm sure that must be some kind of I said, it's not a backing track, it's not,
because he got quite excited about when you did a cover of Japan, didn't you? Was it Quiet Life, I think?
And
he just
got
couldn't
flagged
believe
up as something. He got flagged up as being Japan, but it's just one of those things. But it's really sad because I feel as though with more time, I would have become even closer to Dom, and it's a bit sad that way because I did genuinely really like the guy, and I am really, really saddened by the news. I just wish his family all the best, and we have our deepest sympathies, and we're all feeling it as well. Yeah,
indeed. Ollie, I say the first time I ever saw you was on Dom's show. I had no idea that you existed, and thankfully, I would say, he brought you to all of our attention, certainly to mine as well. Have you got any sort of fond memories or anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, it's funny. It affected me a lot more than I thought it would. When I found out, and I didn't know him for long or personally. Even we just exchanged a few conversations online. But he was kind enough to invite me to his show, and just on the basis that he'd seen the thing that Dead Mouse cover, and that was what struck me about him. He was just very curious and enthusiastic, but pretty much anything, any form of musical expression and or production, and just very generous with his time afterwards as well, because we'd exchange a few PMs. I was working on sample libraries, and I didn't really want to go the contact route, but he started on his side to work into maybe developing a small sampling engine, and he'd done some work on it, so we kept exchanging, and then we got busy with other projects. But yeah, just super nice, super friendly, and just very, very generous with his time. He'll obviously be missed by a lot of people who knew him well, but even guys like me who only knew him for the briefest interactions, really. Remarkable individual. Life sucks.
Indeed. Well said. Ken, now I know that it's hit you hard, so yeah, absolutely no problem if you don't want to say anything right now, if it's still a little bit raw. I know you guys were about to go into business together and doing something, but did you want to add anything? And yes, like I said, I know it's kind of struck you quite hard.
Yeah, I just want to be positive about it now, to be honest. Everything that was just brilliant about him. I mean, he was the sort of guy where if you fell out of a plane accidentally and was able to talk to him for 30 seconds on the way down before you hit the ground, when you hit the ground, you felt like you'd known him your whole life.
Yeah.
He was that kind of a guy where he made a really big impact on people very, very quickly. So he was a lovely bloke. He was a fantastic guy.
Indeed. He was indeed. And I think everyone's abiding memory, obviously I don't want to put words in people's mouth, I think everyone's abiding memory is that he was just always positive and smiling and happy and appreciative and thoughtful. Yeah, all of those. I mean, it's all very cliched. We say these things when people have gone. I met him a number of times in person, and every time he was really friendly and chatty, and we'd sit and talk about all sorts of things. And actually, I do have a clip here. I've got a couple of clips. So this, let me just bring this up here. I'm going to make sure I do this properly. The last time that I hung out with Dom was in October of last year at Synthfest. So I wasn't aware that Dom was going to be working. I knew he was going to be there, but I wasn't aware that he was going to be on the Soma stand. And so I showed up along with Dina Perlman and helped set her stand up. And then all of a sudden I hear his voice and I think, that's Dom. So over we go. And of course there he is. And he's all happy and bouncy and cheery and what have you. And we went to the bar and we were drinking, and some, putting that out there, alcohol had been consumed. And I got a ping on my mobile phone at 7 p.m. because this is a Friday night. And it says the ProSynth Network show has gone live. Now, the way we had left it, because Ben, I can't remember where you were. Were you gigging?
Probably.
Or you were going to be gigging or something.
Yeah.
And Kent was riddled with COVID. And Mike Metley jumped in last minute and said, "Hey, look, we can do it." So they started the show, and I was like, wasn't expecting this. And it happened while I was with Dom. So Dom said, "Oh, let's go on. Let's." So we tried to find a place with decent Wi-Fi, which took a bit of doing. So that kind of explains the bit at the beginning of this clip. But this is a nice little memory to actually have sort of stored in the Ethernet or the internet even. Let's have a look at this from October last year. Go on, play.
Who is this guy? I don't know, but his video stream is fairly crappy. Oh my God, and oh heavens, oh this is terrible. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but all we hear is intermittent noise from you, and your frame rate is about 1 frame per minute. So
eventually, I'm going to skip
connected.
forward here.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We got a connection.
I can hear you. We Kent is somehow propped up at the microphone and got the stream started.
I got the message saying the stream was going on. I thought, what the hell's going on?
Oh, Ben's flat on his back. They've both got COVID.
Have you tested positive then, Ken? Oh.
Yeah, and apparently apparently Fiona's got it even worse.
This is what you get when you snog Ben.
But
I
he's
did not
so
need that mental
gorgeous.
image. I did not need that mental image. I really did not. Rob, it's good to see you. How's Synthfest? Just the run up.
Brilliant. But look who I found. Hello.
Hi there.
Retrobate floating around.
Oh man.
You just pick these random people. Oh wow, this is a better signal. Yeah, we only had to move like 10 yards down the way, and it's working. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a little bit sniffy.
A little bit sniffy. That's like saying Adolf Hitler had socialization problems.
So there you go. That was from Synthfest, and you can watch the entirety of that show and that clip. It's what episode was it? 131. And you know, Kent, you actually generated one of those COVID information warnings on that video.
God.
This big banner at the bottom of it, get the latest information. Yeah, so that was.
Do you know what? That's the first time I've seen a clip of him.
Yeah.
Since, and it's good to do it. It's
I think you've got to face stuff like that kind of head on and
yeah.
bite the bullet,
I think so because otherwise it starts to go in the opposite direction, and it goes it's very, very negative, and you don't really want to go there. Yeah. It's like I remembered the other day about how he was always bloody, when he was here, he'd always laughing because Fiona kept calling him Uncle Fester, which he thought was hilarious.
Bless.
You know, and things like I did Luna May's quiz on his show dressed as Darth Vader.
You did.
And I mean, like,
Yeah.
you look back now and you go, what?
Bath Spong, wasn't it?
Bath Spong, yeah. Come over to the wet side.
Indeed, yes. Well, there's one other clip I want to share, and then we'll kind of sign off on that. And I think it was the first time that Dom jumped in last moment and did the co-hosting thing. You know, because I was you all know I love my records, and I go and queue outside a shop in the middle of spring to buy some vinyl. And Dom said, "Oh yeah, come on, yeah, I'll stand in. I'll give the lads a hand." And this was back in it was just 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, and it is the source of one of the most amusing moments I think this channel has ever generated, and it was at my expense, and I'm quite happy and quite proud that it did that. But I think anyone that knows will know what's coming next. So enjoy this little segment from me signing off from outside a record shop, and let's do this.
Well, you shall forever be called Regimental Sergeant Zippo for me from now on.
Okay.
I think that should be your title as
the
controller of the ProSynth network. We should probably have a look at something synth related for a moment, if that's okay. Is that all right, Rob?
Absolutely. I'm going to go now because my phone is getting really hot and there's probably battery. Yeah.
All right,
So,
no worries. So, pop up whenever you want, and if I see it pop up, come join us in a minute.
See you later.
See you later.
See you later. Bye. Bye. What a wanker.
Well, we know if he loses his job and ProSynth Network goes south, that he'll have a full and wondrous career giving tours on top. And giving tours on top of Double Decker.
Absolutely, it's fascinating, isn't it? I'm a little disappointed there weren't more people, but I guess they'll arrive quite soon. It's not central London, isn't it? It's Bury St Edmunds with a small record. I mean, what a shop to have though! If you're into music in Bury St Edmunds, that's not the kind of shop you'd expect to.
I reckon tomorrow morning when the doors open, there'll still be just been released. And he just didn't need to do it at all. He could have turned up at 5 to 8.
Oh dear.
Oh, there you go. Dominic, we love you and we miss you, and thank you for all the laughs, all the support, and everything that you did, and our thoughts And condolences and sympathies and all that stuff go to, obviously, Sophia and Lula May. And there will be a memorial service of some description. The details haven't been released yet, but I think it's March 24th in Chiswick, down in London. So if anybody can make that, that would be a good place to meet up and properly,
Aren't we lucky?
Aren't we very lucky? Yeah.
And also, aren't we lucky that we live in a time where there's still so much content with him in it, you know?
Yeah.
It's almost like keeping him with us. Isn't it?
Yeah. And lots of people have been speculating about what might happen to the channel, because his channel wasn't just about, you know, the bonkers Mr. Wiggly show every Sunday, but it also had the mental health awareness stuff on Wednesday evenings as well, which was super helpful to lots and lots of people. So I hope that all of that stuff will just get left on there and looked after, and will be there for many people to benefit from the content, but also get some solace and some laughter and smiles. But yeah, there you go. Dominic Hawken, we love you, we miss you, and thank you.
What a wanker.
Anyway, bless him indeed. That, by the way, that is that's a common what do they call it? A gesture of affection. That little phrase now is often used on Kent's show. And
well, that's how we sign off everybody.
Indeed. Everybody gets signed off that.
When everybody leaves, we'll wait till they've gone and we place that.
So, yeah, there we go. Loads of lovely comments in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for those. I haven't been able to put them up on the screen. I'm sure you've all been there as well. Just want to shout out to our friend Simon Alexander, who I saw pop up in there. Good to see you again. I know that Simon is still watching the show, and I think he might be on Three Port Collective on Wednesday. I think Wednesday. So go and check him out there. He's still alive. He's still kicking and still supporting Watford. Never mind. Hey.
Somebody had to.
Somebody has to. Yeah. He'll kill me for that now. I also saw very briefly there Brad from Isla Instruments, and I was talking to Brad earlier this week, and Brad will be coming on the show. No dates at the moment, but he's agreed. He's going to be coming on the show. That's put the kibosh on it now. He'll now pull out. You better not. Anyway, let's move on. Thanks for everyone's kind words, and please go and enjoy life, because it's too damn
there you
short. There we are. Right.
See you now.
We'll get back to Ollie in just a moment. Let's just cover a couple of little brief news topics to what do they cleanse the palate, shall we say? So thanks to, I think it was Andy Brooks, or it might have been Jim Glue last night, who brought to my attention that one of the new shows in the UK for gear and equipment that started last year as a one-day event at the Tile Yard is actually now back this year, 2023, and it's now a two-day event. It's Gearfest UK. It's the music and studio equipment show that's held at the Tile Yard Studios in London, and is co-hosted by Tile Yard and Sound on Sound magazine, and it's more of a all-round gear show rather than just an exclusively synthesizer-y show. But yeah, if you're into your mixers, your monitors, your microphones, your interfaces, your synthesizers, all sorts of stuff there, loads of great equipment, loads of great people on hand giving lectures and seminars and demonstrations, and as you can see there from the list of people that are already signed up for 2023, lots of the big names will be there. There's no ticket prices as yet, but they will be around fairly shortly. And of course, this year there's 2 days. It was a 2-day event, Saturday and Sunday. So you get a full weekend of geeking out there. So I just thought I'd bring that to everyone's attention. It would be great to see you all there. It's really easy to get to because it's not far from King's Cross Railway Station and Tube Station, so it's a short walk from there. And if last year's event is anything to go by, it will be a cracker. So there you go. Gearfest is back, and of course, it's kind of, I guess, the sister event, Synthfest, in October. Hasn't been confirmed yet, but it's going to happen, and we'll bring you details of that when we have them. Anyone here going to come to Gearfest this year? I know it's probably a trek for most of you. It's up the road from you, Kent. Can we stick you in like a bubble or something?
Yeah, ironically.
Just roll you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't do those, but
No. Oh, well.
I might go to it. I might do.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm going to Berlin.
We
so I suppose wherever that is, King's Cross. Oh yes.
There you go. That was the moment the tickets were bought.
Have you noticed I've got a bit of colour back in me now? That was when
you
I was
did
like
look a bit
really
pasty.
anemic at that point.
It was very cold. You'd literally just been popped out of the freezer, hadn't you? Dear, oh dear.
Yeah. So yeah, I might give that a go as well. I might make it a regular thing.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it being like studio gear as well, because
Yeah.
you know we all love our synthesizers, but you need to record them and hear them, and you might stumble across some other piece of equipment that is you never would have seen if you were just keeping in tune with what was going on in the synth world and nothing else. So yeah, I like things like that. I like a little bit of variety and stuff as well.
Ollie,
So,
did
yeah,
you ever
it
get
sounds
over
good.
to the mainland?
Not really, no. And as far as I know, there's not much happening in Ireland with regards to these type of events. It's just too small. We don't have the population. Really.
Yeah. No, I've got a friend that lives in Newry, and he's just, there's nothing around here. It's quite a shock, really. But yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see some of you guys are in the chat. There's lots of talk about it there at the moment. And apologies for my Irish accent there; it was rather poor. He's from the north, you see. And that one is. Yeah.
It's okay. This one's okay.
I have to channel my inner Ian Paisley to get that twang, but I can't do it on spec. Anyway, I'm shutting
Terrible
up now,
at accents,
before I
mate.
offend vast swathes of two nations, probably. Especially after we had Ali on the show yesterday, who with that lovely Dublin accent. So there you go. That is Gearfest UK coming up later this year, and there was one other. I'll do this one because there's not much to talk about, because I want to get back to talking with Ollie. So I think we featured this when it premiered at Synthfest in France. Not Synthfest France. It was Soundmit in Turin, in Italy, late last year. This debuted, and it is the brand new synthesizer coming from French manufacturer Kodamo, who we know for their Essence FM, which is a stunning piece of kit. And this is the Mask 1 Bitmask synthesizer. It's not out yet. It's going to come out in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. But they have released the manual, so you can start reading up about it and finding out what it does. And it does a heck of a lot in a very simple way. But I really like the cover on this. I thought this was really nice. You don't most synthesizer covers are just like very boring and bland. And this one is hugely colourful. And you will get a hard copy of this in the box of the Mask one. Should you buy one? I think they're going to retail for about $17.99 UK or euros, and it is coming literally in 2 or 3 weeks' time. And we hope to be able to bring you a little bit more than just a manual at some point. And this, I'm quite proud of this one because, and let me just scroll all the way down to this bit here, because I had a little hand in the manual. So obviously everything's written in, everything. All the people that make this are from France, and they needed some English eyes on it to check things. So I even get a name check. Look there, no way. So I'm quite proud of that one. I quite like that. So yeah, hopefully I'm going to try and get Stefan on the show at some point soon, because he's the guy that's behind all of that. And obviously there's a small team of people that do that. But fingers crossed, we will be seeing and hearing a lot more of the Bitmask or the Mask 1 bit mask synthesizer. So there you go. Get that one out. Now, I've just seen my cat, who's literally chewing at the door, wanting to get out, and I knew this would happen. So I'm going to have to go and let her out in just a moment. So before we do that, let's go back because I want to go back to Ollie. I'm just going to bring
That
up...
manual illustration was so lovely. I expected to see more in the actual manual.
I was slightly disappointed that
yeah,
was
yeah.
it. Yeah, absolutely. Now I just want to bring. Where is it? I've lost it. There.
You can see why. You can see why they've, for me anyway, that they've released that manual early, because it's such a complex, but potentially complex way of programming. But the interface is really simple, isn't it? It's only got like a small LED. So I reckon a lot of people thought, "Ooh, I don't fancy that." Maybe, and bringing out the manual shows you how easy it is to get, into the guts of the thing with a relatively simple interface,
Yeah. And of course, I have to mention that patch number 1 on that synthesizer has been created by our very own Dr. Manny Fernandez.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of others in there as well. But yeah, Manny's been very helpful in the development of this. So yeah, some good stuff going on. But it's kind of a bit masking synthesis. I didn't really understand it, but this manual, I'm not just saying this because I've had a hand in it, but it does really explain it very well. And the interface is quite simple, to the point where some people have actually been criticizing the interface for being too simple without actually having got their hands on the synth.
Of course.
It sounds great.
It
sounds absolutely awesome. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on one of those. So yeah,
it's an interesting approach that you release a manual ahead of the synth, because I suppose you could release videos, but there's some mystique added to a piece of gear when you just release the manual first.
Yeah,
it might see if it catches on, but
yeah, it is good stuff. Right, I'm just going to play this video here. This is from Ollie's channel, and you'll understand why I've played this particular one. Not just because it was the first one I got to, but also there is a very personal connection to this. I'm going to play this whilst I go and let my cat out of the room before she tears the doors down. Go on, play.
Nice ending as well. Yeah, it's good. That
smooth.
I'm so sorry about it. Yeah.
I'm just listening to that.
Bloody computer. Do you know, I don't think anybody under the age of no, hang on, I've got to get this right. Basically, old people like us get very misty-eyed and nostalgic about that song. Because how many hours did we sit in arcades in the 1980s? I used to make my mother weep because I would be pestering her for another 10p or another 50p.
How much money? Yeah.
Oh, I was just, please, I'll have another go. I almost got the high score. And Outrun was like the thing. It was just the greatest.
It looked so good when it came out, though, didn't it? It was like, it was like, have you seen this? This is a game. This isn't a cartoon. You can control that.
Yeah. Got to remember that line.
3D. It's 3D. Everything was flat before that. Man.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you could recognize people who actually drove cars.
Yeah. Oh dear. So that was Ableton Live driving a DX7, playing one of the tunes from Outrun. I'm hoping we don't get a copyright strike on there, but no, let's just hope not. If not, if you're watching this back and it was silent, then you'll know we did.
It's one of the advantages of doing covers of video game tunes. It's very little copyright issues.
Yeah,
there are some, but usually we're more than happy for them to share the revenue. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, what I want to sort of drive at here is your fascination with video games and, of course, video game music. Where did that were you just like one of us playing video games in arcades back in the day? And
There was that. I mean, at the time we're from a generation that there was no video games, and suddenly there's video games everywhere.
Yeah.
So we went from 0 to 1, and 1 was wonderful. But the I think it's the nostalgia, really, and it's the first music I was really exposed to as a kid. I think, and that's how I started music. I started music on the MSX.
Okay.
And it had a cool. My dad was an engineer for Philips, so we had with stuff like the video back prototypes and prototypes of the MSX they were going to release in Europe. And it had a powerful, like really easy and powerful basic, so you could actually do quite a bit of programming. But it had you could also play notes and music, but proper notes, actually select the quarter note and that kind of stuff. It was tricky. Like you ended up with just giant strings of characters just to play a few notes, but you could alter like the tremolo and the envelope shape and that kind of stuff in basic. So I started to learn music that way because I didn't have access to instruments or a keyboard or anything like that. So from basic, and then from there I got an Amiga, so I ended up using trackers on the Amiga and just stealing as much as many samples as I could from existing games, and just kind of learning that way. So I think that's where it came from. Like my introduction to music was very much video game music.
And because I think one of your latest videos on the 8-Bit Manshed channel is you restoring a Yamaha CX-5M.
Yeah. That was sent to me by a retro channel called RMC.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And he done a video on the CX-5M, and after that, I did a little remix of him that I posted on the channel. But anyway, he liked it very much. We eventually became friends, but he sent me soon after. He sent me the one of the CX-5M that he had on the video, and it sat here for about 2 years until recently I decided to finally take the time to get it. It was working, but there was no power supply, and it needed some quick mod for the sound module, which can be upgraded. So and that kind of stuff. So it's a very simple restoration. It's not even a restoration. The thing was working. It just needed to be really addressed and cleaned. And
I was just going to bring up a clip of that. I thought I'd get that while you were still talking, but I was doing so. So here is a clip from the 8-Bit Manshed restoration of a CX-5M video. Play. There we go. Have we got any sound on that? I've turned the sound off. There we go.
All right, so today on the bench we've got this Yamaha CX-5M MSX computer. This is one of those Yamahas that you can use to actually make music. It outputs, it's on the other side, it has a MIDI module inside and connectors for a keyboard as well. This was featured, if you remember and if you followed the channel, on Neil's RMC The Cave, who did a video on those computers, and I ended up having fun with that video. The Yamaha. But more importantly, this is the very computer that was on that video. He actually sent it to me afterwards. That was a really cool thing to do. Thank you very much, Neil, for this. And here it sat until, well, I finally now have the time to look into it. And so first I want to clean it, because one could describe it as filthy. And the other thing I wanted to first make sure it works. We're going to upgrade the power, the MIDI module, to a better version. This is a whatever it's called, but 1, and the 5 has more MIDI options where you can actually control external stuff with it.
There we go. So if you want to watch the whole of that video, it's about 20 minutes long. Go
Carefully crafted script here.
the 8-Bit Man Shed channel is the one you go. But if you go to BG Ollie's channel, which they're all the channels are already in the description below underneath this video. So go and sign up and subscribe and check that stuff out. So that's now fully working, yeah?
Yeah.
Have you hooked it up to the DX7 and used any of the editing software?
At the end of the video, I hook it up to DX21.
Okay.
And, the software itself, no, I have to actually burn some EPROMs for it.
Yes,
I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, because that's something we messed around with. God, how long ago was that now?
Yeah,
we tested some out, didn't we? Some worked, some didn't. But
yeah, some are funny. They need a bit of extra. They need the what is it, 120 ROM expansion to work. Some of them will only work on some machines. It's a funny system. Not everything is sort of compatible across the different models. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then some modules just won't work. But yeah, it's a weird one. They'll have like extra memory mappers in the cart, so you can't just burn an EPROM and run it.
Have you tried? I'm sure you have. You can get these cartridges that you can then just stick loads of ROMs on. Would they work in one of those as well? Or
well, that's the ones I sent you, isn't it?
No, I mean there's like you can get a single cartridge that you can then put like 50 ROMs on, and then you just select.
I see. Well, for that you'd probably. It really depends on what the memory mapper is, because not everything behaves the same way, especially when it comes to addressing RAM. So MS6 is an interesting. It was supposedly going to be a standard, and yes. Because of the fact that it was a standard, there was no dedicated manufacturers. Everybody added extra bits on top of the existing standard. So. While there's a core of compatibility for gaming and applications, a lot of stuff like the sound expansions are very different across different manufacturers. Like it had about 4 or 5 different sound ICs. Like there was the main one was the PSG, so that was an AY 38910 standard 3-channel square wave. Mm-hmm. You obviously had the CX5M. I forget what this was. Then Konami did their own sound IC, the SCC, which was like it was like a wavetable, like the Gravis ultrasound type of. So that added an extra channel, but that was proprietary, so you can't just burn Konami games if they have the SCC stuff. There was the music module, which was an 8950 OPL. There was the MSX audio standard, which was just this giant kind of. There was a built-in PCM engine. There was essentially two 8950. It was like 4 MIDI in and out. Just this big expansion that sat at the back of the Panasonic. You had the Moon Sound, which was an OPL4 standard that was more produced as a hobbyist type of expansion. Like and probably forgetting a lot. The music module, that's the other one I think I mentioned.
I mean, I've just been educated. I honestly didn't know that there was that many. Because I remember a cousin of mine. We went round once to visit, and they'd just taken delivery of a Yamaha CX5M, and they were playing some really rubbish game on it. And I knew what this was. I knew what, and I was like, it's got FM and digital, and and it was wasted on them. Wasted, I tell you. So not only have you got this big passion for retro computers and retro games, but also you're getting, as we can see flashing over your right shoulder there, you're amassing quite a Eurorack collection. Tell us a little bit how you got into that, and also what you're doing with that, in terms of creating stuff.
Beginning of the pandemic, I was just like everybody else. You're a bit curious about Eurorack stuff, so I started just researching online about how it all works. Because on my 8-Bit Man Shed, the old videos were me fixing arcade boards and PCBs and old monitors. So it's a mix of digital and analog circuitry. So I was like, surely it's not going to be that complex really compared to maybe a CRT monitor. So I started filling like notebooks of just notes, and eventually I ended up ordering a couple of my own designs. And I probably did it the hard way because they're very simple designs. I probably reinvented the wheels a few times. Like it's as simple a VCO as you can get. But I ended up designing and making my own modules from scratch, and I have one here, that kind of stuff. And it's just circuit boards, bare circuit boards. That's really all it is, but the idea was to make them for very, very cheap. So that's what I did. So it's this guy's filling up, but it's all my own designs and builds.
Cool.
It was just a cool. I didn't want to, obviously, like, people are curious, but the cost of Eurorack is obviously a big issue for a lot of people. So I didn't want to be hindered by that, and it's the best ways to do it yourself. Also, it's kind of cool. I think for me, the spirit of Eurorack is the DIY kind of aspect of it. Even if I had the money to throw at a Eurorack setup, I think I'd still want to do it myself. So.
Any plans to sell that, or is this purely for your own amusement?
No, at some point, people were asking me, so I ended up. I have an Etsy shop where I sell them. And I'm actually busy with it. Pretty much, it's taken off this year because I used to sell repros of arcade. Like a lot of arcade boards will have little daughter boards or custom ICs. So sometimes I was able to refactor them into little daughter boards, or actually reproduction of daughter boards and that kind of stuff. You need a lot of adapters, so I made them for myself. I ended up putting them on Etsy shop, and then when I started doing those modules, I did the same thing. So I think I sell them for about $30 a pop, and really? They've been going really well. So it's nothing fancy, it's very, very basic. But sometimes if you want to get started, that's all you need, really. Just basic VCO, basic VCF, simple VCA, and off you go.
What's the Etsy, the name of your Etsy shop?
It's I'm not sure. 8-bit Manshed, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Link.
I'm pretty sure. I was just trying to find it so I could throw that up on, so we could maybe send some business your way. 8-bit Mansion. There we go. Right, so let's throw this on the screen. Because
I can barely keep up sending them, so not too much business, please.
You don't hear that very often, do you? Not too much business, please. There you go. Well, I mean, there's other things on there as well, but 8-bit Mansion on Etsy. There you go. Can't miss it. MSX replacement cartridges, Eurorack components, Mega Drive replacement bits, and all sorts of lovely techie things that confuse the hell out of me. But some really cool stuff on there. So please go and check it out. If you place an order, expect it to not be there too soon, but please do. We're getting a lot of questions about the cheeseburger on your wall. I don't know why.
On my wall,
is that a cheese over your left shoulder by the door? Is that a cheeseburger on the wall? No. The other side on the wall by the door. That big round thing.
Oh, that's a Baron. That's a Baron. It's a percussion.
Going on about this cheeseburger, and I'm looking and thinking, why has he got a cheeseburger on his wall? What is it?
It's a Baron. It's an Irish percussion.
Okay, there you go.
Baron. It's spelled
it's a slightly bigger drum than a Lord, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a frame drum.
There you go. Look, we're going to get a demonstration. It's not a cheeseburger, boys and girls.
That's look at that. It's just a hollow frame drum. It's tunable.
Now I don't feel so hungry. Yeah, look at that.
And you sort of play it with a stick or a brush.
Okay. Nice. So, obviously, you've got to think about Irish instruments because obviously you live in Ireland, but of course you're not from Ireland.
Indeed not.
So you're from France, which when I first met you, I thought, oh, what a lovely Irish accent. And then there was something about it. I thought, no, that's not. And then I found out it was French. So how did you make it from over there to over there?
Well, being French, there was a girl.
Isn't there always?
Why else would a Frenchman travel?
Indeed.
Yeah, I was supposed to come here for my master's when I was 21, I think, something like that. And I ran out of money after 3 months in Ireland, and decided to find a job, and realized I was making more money than what was waiting for me back home, which was going to be teaching English in school. So I was like, I'll stay for another year, and it's been 27 years now.
Wow.
So,
There you go.
and I have too much stuff to move, so I'm staying.
You've
Yeah.
not really picked up the accent, though, have you?
No.
Oh dear. There is some of your videos, particularly in the 8-Bit Man Shed. You tour, sort of take us around your property there, and it's one of those fascinating. You just wish you could just go there and get lost in it, because you've got your own little arcade room, haven't you?
Yeah, I have a few sheds. I have a good few sheds, and I'm lucky. But I live in the middle of the countryside. I'm not even in a village, so it's an old farm sort of space.
Nice.
But yeah, I have a shed dedicated to a few arcade machines, including Outrun, which we talked about earlier. But I think I have, I forget, probably 15 or 17 machines now. I picked up 2 more this weekend or
Oh
last
my
weekend.
word!
Yeah, Sega Rally, the double sit down.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that game.
So yeah.
I was just trying to find it. You there was a video where you did a little bit of a tour, wasn't there, of the shed? But I can't. I'll try and find it. Who's the puppet?
Simon, he's over there.
How did Simon come into your world?
Simon was a drunken purchase on Etsy, which I had to justify after that. Usually, when my wife likes to go away for a week with our friends every now and then, so usually that that leaves me a very wild week in the house on my own with too many ideas, and yeah, that's what happened. I use the puppet a lot for sponsorship videos, intros. Those little segments where I go, this video is sponsored by Manscaped or that kind of stuff. Not that they were ever a sponsor, but yeah, it's handy for that, because it's a bit of levity. It's just silly skits and keeps people watching. But yeah, fun. I've made longer format videos with that thing. And
that thing.
yeah.
You posted a trailer up or a trailer of sorts on Facebook the other day. I was trying to find that, because is that just on Facebook, or did you put it on YouTube anywhere?
It's buried in my channel on YouTube, but
I'll have to
maybe
see if I can dig that out before the end.
Just while it's in my head, I was wondering if I could ask. You're making cover versions of the original arcade music.
Yeah.
If any of the machines have got the capability to take it, have you ever thought about putting your cover versions back into the machine and replacing the original audio?
Wouldn't that be cool? There has been a few people, because I've made an entire Castlevania album a few years ago. So somebody has actually taken those tunes and did a sort of ROM pack that you can play in an emulator.
Wow!
So it plays those tunes while you're playing Castlevania.
Wow.
And somebody has made a port of Outrun called Cannonball. Long story short, because the PCBs are very rare and very expensive now, somebody has made a Raspberry Pi drop-in replacement that you can put in your arcade machine. In it is that Cannonball port, which also can take in MP3s. Right. So I've done covers of Outrun, and I'm going to look into maybe putting them into that part at some point, if that's possible at all. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'll do it. There's a bit too much hubris involved there, but yeah,
it's cool though, isn't it?
Didn't somebody make a character of you in a video game?
Yeah. I ended up. There was early days of it. It's 2014. I did covers of a game called Wonder Boy. It was an arcade game, but there was a few other games after that on the there was Wonder Boy 2, Wonder Boy 3. so I did covers of Wonder Boy 3, and I was approached by a company called FDG Entertainment, who was working on a sort of sequel of the game. So I was supposed to, they wanted to use one of the covers I've done as a promotional video, so we worked on that. And then we started talking, and it sort of evolved into a bigger project. So I found myself making 7 tracks for the game, and then they decided to include a character that has a shirt like that and a hat and plays the banjo. and you have to find the music sheets to unlock those tunes that are in the game. So yeah, that was cool. Monster Boy it's called, and that released in 2018. And it's a wonderful little game. It's actually the delightful little game, and it's quite long and quite challenging. So I recommend anybody who wants to play that. It's very child friendly too, but it's challenging for adults.
Nice.
And it's got a ton of really, really cool compositions on it. They actually got, I think the budget for the music on the game was $1 million, which for an indie game is quite high.
Yeah.
I didn't get near as much as that, but they had some star composers like Yuzo Koshiro and Ishiro Yamane, who did the Castlevania stuff, and yeah, really cool game. And
I mean, video game music has become, and it has been for a long while, a very popular subject, and it's got huge fans. And you know, was it recently? There was the Commodore 64 Orchestra or something where they were playing, you know, music from Commodore 64 games in an orchestra, and there was, you know, all of those sort of classic composers from back in the day.
Yeah.
Have you got any particular favourites of those? Any favourite sort of soundtracks and favourite composers?
I would say the work that Chris Hulsbeck did on Turrican on the Amiga would probably be my favorite. But yeah, that would probably be my favorite soundtrack. Dune, the first Dune game had just a stellar soundtrack. Stefan Pick was the composer, and I did a few tracks from that. But he had a clear mastery of FM synthesis and. Yeah, watch there's been a few games, but look for the original PC DOS Dune game. It's absolutely amazing. Other than that, you know, there's obviously David Wise and other people like I'd be a huge fan of. But there's so many really, really good composers. It's hard to pick a favorite.
Yeah.
Plus, I've become friends with them now. So
wow, yeah.
favorites.
I was like Martin Galway stuff. Whenever I saw his name on a game, I thought, oh yeah, it's going to be some. I think you listen back to them now and you think, oh, but there is a charm to them, isn't there? I mean, there is, and they were working within very, very, very tight constraints. I mean, not just in terms of the space to store the tunes, but you know the actual chips that were available to make the tunes. I mean, obviously. I know people are going to go, oh, but when the FM chips started dropping into games machines and consoles, it really did broaden everyone's palate.
That was a huge step, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were used to like 3 voices of square waves, really. Like the NES had a cool little engine. It could actually produce triangle and sawtooth, but usually it was square waves. If you were lucky, you get a pulse with a modulation and a filter on the Commodore 64, but that was about it. The MSX didn't have any of that. The standard MSX was just 3 square waves, and that's it. But still within that, there was some cool, really catchy, and but they had to. I mean, it had to be catchy because you can rely on the sound alone to grab your attention. And so I think that's what attracted me to video game music, was to use proper instrument to kind of show people that, you know, they're solid compositions, they're real tunes, and if you take them out of the context of video games, they can actually work on their own. It's been a cool journey of discovery as well. I discovered a lot of compositions I'd never heard before, and a lot of composers I didn't know about. You know, so it's a wonderful world, and it's great to see now that people from more mainstream areas of music, from film composers and even pop artists, are actually getting into making or composing stuff for a video game. There's a beautiful way to legitimize the genre, because it's not really a genre in itself either.
Yeah, because I mean, video game music has come on, leaps and bounds from, like as you said, things like the Commodore 64, where our little minds were blown with 3 channels of audio, and hearing chords and not just little bleeps and bloops. And now every major video game has huge full-blown movie scores recorded by the world famous orchestras, written by composers who do all sorts of other compositions. It really has grown in a very short space of time.
I remember being blown away the first time I heard a vocal in a computer game soundtrack. It was like,
like when you turn the Sega Mega Drive on, you heard Sega, and you think, wow, this is like cool stuff. And obviously there was stuff before then, but
like modern video games, and like a game like The Last of Us, there's a remake now, which it's a fine example of seeing music being used as a narration device. It's just it's masterfully done nowadays. It's far, I'd say, argue far more than films, because it's interactive, so there's an extra layer and dimension to be added. And it's beautiful to see video games and video game music, but video games just being recognized as proper art forms now, in the same way films were at some point.
Because it's not just about composing a suite of pieces that will just maybe sit over the cutscenes, but it's generative. It has to it has to. We had Torsten Heinze on here, and I think he's been on a few other shows as well. He does music for games, and he was explaining how all the algorithms work to bring in the appropriate bits of music at the appropriate times of tension and drama or whatever. And of course, all of those things happen based on your interaction with the game, so they have to be ready in the wings, so to speak, until you do a certain thing, and then that music comes in, and that heightens the whole experience.
And if you think about it for a minute, that all that stuff takes so much processing power as well on your main processor, because that's what's handling it. So that's when the stuff like the GPU audio would actually be amazing especially for video game applications, because you can have stuff that reacts that way, but in sort of 3D environment, or even in a VR environment that would require exponential levels of extra power. Suddenly you can do it with the GPU processor.
It's coming on. Great guns. I mean the awards now. You watch video game awards and you listen to all of the bits that have been nominated. Just those on their own are impressive. Ken, you love your cinematic stuff. You've been sitting there quiet far too long. I'm going to bug you now. You love your cinematic music. Have you ever thought? I mean, and you also love your video games. So, question to you, sir: have you ever thought about doing anything like that?
Yes.
And come on, elaborate. No one-word answers.
No, I thought about it.
Okay.
Because sometimes you hear there's some beautiful orchestral stuff knocking about on some of the games, like Red Faction, Red Faction 2 and stuff like that. Oh, Fruitbat over here, he did the soundtrack for Crisis 2.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. I've always liked the music in computer games. There's something about the work that goes into it. Although you feel like you're the only person that's ever hears it. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like you get your game and you're playing it and you get to know the music. And you think, well, nobody else is going to know what this music is. Wrong.
Yeah.
It's such a huge niche.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's actually more prevalent and out there than anybody actually really realizes. Because I've seen on my show, we bring up some obscure thing, the Atari ST Captain Blood, and using the jar track, specially edited up and everything. And we mentioned that, and like about 80 people in the chat going, "Yeah, I remember that." Yeah,
What was the the video game? It was an 8-bit video game. Was it? Oh, I'm going to say Bomberman that had Jean-Michel Jarre music in it. Was it Bomberman or?
Here's what I found.
It was, sorry,
Yeah.
shut
This is what I found on Bomberman.
what was that? It was like an 8-bit video game that had Jean-Michel Jarre. I can't remember which track it was. Somebody in the chat, Wagyu will probably.
Well, I would have thought Captain Blood was the only one that had a Jarre soundtrack, but
Well, I don't think it was composed by. They just borrowed something from.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, no, that was Captain Blood was what was it from Rendezvous or something like that, and they just chopped it up
Now,
in a
that was
particular way to make it fit.
they had it on the Amstrad CPC as well, but I'm not sure if the soundtrack was the same. I know on the Amiga and the Atari ST it was a sample.
No, I'm sure it was Bomberman.
I used to love working on the trackers on the Amiga. That's how I really got into sequence. I did have a CX5 at first, but then when I got older, the CX5M, when I got older, the Amiga, and even though it was only 4 tracks at first,
Oh yeah,
the way that you could put like different samples on the same track and have it, you know, alternating. Remember, like looking for the gaps, seeing if I could stick like a vocal in.
yeah. Any little empty slots you try to fit something in there.
I can get the word "you" in there. I'm certain of it. I'll have to play the other bit on another track.
It was Bomb Jack.
Bomber Jack.
Jack.
Bomb Jack.
Oh, Bomb Jack.
I have the.
Bomb.
This is what I found on Bumjack.
I have
Oh, it didn't do it?
Arcade machine.
No, it didn't.
Here.
Xenon 2, yeah, that was Bomb the Bass, wasn't it? Who did that?
Yeah,
The Xenon
I did a
2.
cover of that. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Bomb Jack because you had to go around and explode all the bombs. Yeah.
What about the
was half right.
Bitmap Brothers? The Bitmap Brothers games?
Yeah, Bitmap
Do you-
Brothers,
have,
yeah.
have you ever done any of?
Yeah, so I did. Well, Xenon 2 is one
Oh
of them.
yeah. Sorry, yeah.
I
It is,
did cover
isn't it?
that of Gods as well,
Yeah,
and Speedball 2. I've done all
Speedball
three.
too, yeah.
that was a classic game.
They were-
Speedball.
Yeah.
Trying to write the MIDI for that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I usually try to source a MIDI, or if there's no MIDI, I'll write it myself, and then I can release it on VGM archives.
Right. Yeah.
For stuff that's sampled like that, it's kind of tricky to write.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a fur-like feel about it. The Speedball 2 soundtrack. Yeah.
I think I even learnt to play the theme to Battlezone.
Yeah, and that was a cool. Yeah, that's on my list.
Yeah. There's another one.
There is a certain when you hear that Commodore 64 or the SID chip, and that kind of really long, the long notes that they. What was the game? I can't remember the name of the game. Though. It might have been Whizball, but it's one of those. And it's so evocative when you hear that SID chip. It really does zoom you right back to like 1984. And
I think the first game that I ever actually took notice of obviously like Space Invaders and that you was aware that there was sound going on, but it was never that impressive. But was it Defender? Where it had all like kind of phasing on the.
Yeah.
You used to be able to like do like some sort of hyper jump, and you'd hear this phase go like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like wow.
Yeah,
This is getting really good. There.
It really is. It's one of those. I think you had to be of a certain age at a certain time to really understand how mind blowing it was to hear great music coming out of these little machines. And
and yet you know what's amazing is there's a whole group of younger people who clearly weren't there at the time. They were even not there when YouTube was made, but who have a wonderful appreciation for video game music in general, but of any age, and the amount of channels dedicated to either just making those available, the original ones, or working on covers. You have kids in their early 20s doing covers of old NES games, or I wouldn't go as far as C64 and Amiga stuff. You have to be this type of guy, but it's wonderful to see like the appreciation for these old tunes, these old games, and especially in much younger crowd who clearly have not experienced this. They were born and there was already video game.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come back to stuff that you do in just a moment. I'm just going to break off and do a couple of newsy bits just to keep everything interesting, and not saying that you're I'm going to shut up. You know what I mean?
Rude. I was getting into that.
On the toes. On the toes. We are of course we are the Pro Synth Network, so we need to talk about some synthesizer stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And the next thing I talk to Ollie about will be about synthesizers and sampling. Trust me, it will be. This came onto our radar. This is brilliant. This is. So we all know and we all love Suit and Tie Guy, and he's been on our show, and we want to get him back on soon because I want to talk to him about this particular thing. But it came down the wire the other day that the name Musonics had been resurrected, and there was now modules bearing the legendary Musonics name. And it was accompanied by this wonderful letter, which I shall bring up on screen. So this was on headed Musonics notepaper, which had a very retro 70s feel to it. I won't read it all, but basically it starts off by saying that Musonics has acquired the very failed Eurorack manufacturer STG Sound Labs, which is a bit of a giveaway to start off with. In a private equity trade valued at 6 million Dogecoin, which is about $500,000 US, I think. Based in the Greater Buffalo area, Musonics is America's oldest synthesizer company, whose first instrument, the Sonic 5 educational synthesizer, is highly regarded as one of the most reliable analog instruments of the 1970s. So, yeah, clearly tongue is planted firmly in cheek. Musonics are compared to a unique category of businesses alongside names such as Abercrombie and Fitch, Montgomery Ward, and Radio Shack, most of which have gone out of business, as have Musonics. And at the end it says here, pending the completion of the acquisition, Musonics will be moving from their current office, a vintage dumpster located behind the Wegmans grocery store in Williamsville, New York, to downtown Chillicothe, Illinois, making it possibly the only company moving to the state this year. An absolutely brilliant piece of anti-marketing. It's fantastic. But it exists. This thing actually exists. This is the 902 VCA, and this is a further revision of the original Musonics design. It's in the Moog format, modular format. And for those that were there's actually there was a video of this a little while back, which was our friend Matt Baxley, or Moot Bootsley, as he's often known. And I thought I had the video up, but I seem to have lost it. But he did a demo at Synthplex. No, was it Synthplex? No, it was Knobcon, which of course is Suit and Tie Guy's show that he has in the greater Chicago area. But it's just absolutely fantastic, and this is now available for $275 of your American dollars. If you are into the larger format rack stuff, it has an 80 dB dynamic range, DC to 50,000 hertz frequency range, amplification factor of 2 times to control level of 6 volts. This means something to someone, not he. All sorts of wonderful stuff, and is available now to buy from Noisebug for a mere $275 US. Thoughts on this one, gentlemen? I mean, I don't know anybody who's got full size modular, but I'm sure this is quite an interesting thing for some people.
Well, it's a VCA.
Yeah, 275.
Put it this way: if you were buying a Moog System 55, for instance, the VCA is the thing on the end that you put the outputs in. And it's about it. It's not the most interesting module in the rack. However, that said, I think with a lot of the modular people, especially the large format, there is a thing about the VCA's being as as quiet as possible and as dynamic as possible. So yeah, it will fill that hole in their lives.
Yeah. Fan the video. Let's have a quick listen to Matt talking about this module.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt Baxley, aka Moot Booksley. I'm here with the STG Sound Labs new venture, which is Musonics. STG Sound Labs presents Musonics modules. These are basically, right now we have just the VCA, which is the final incarnation of the Moog 902 VCA, with all of the specifications completely overhauled, and this is what we feel is the ultimate incarnation of this module, and there will be modules to come in the same series, as you can imagine.
So there you go, promises of more modules with the Musonics label. Those beady-eyed individuals. Oh, we've lost Ollie. Hopefully he'll come back. Did we offend him? Fluffing now. Yeah, so hopefully we'll have some more of those coming in different shapes and forms in that format. And hopefully we'll get Suit and Tygo back on the show to tell us all about that. The eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed some other modules there with Moo Sonics and a little cow face on the thing, so MOO Sonics. So I'm guessing, and I don't know. It seems awful. You kind of pick out the stuff, and it kind of ruins the joke, I suppose. But I'm guessing that the Musonics brand is now probably available, and so he's been very clever and astute and taken that and applied it. But I'm sure Suit will come on and tell us a little bit about that later on. Ever thought about building full-size modular stuff, Ollie?
Well, I am here.
No, but I mean, like full-size, the big stuff.
No, I it's bad enough that I'm using that much space for a modular rack here. I don't have $275 to put into a VCA. True. I just don't.
Yeah. There's been some keyboard news. Couple of keyboards. Yeah, I know. Well, I say news. I mean, this really isn't anything spectacular. It's not like it's really changing the game at all. But Nord have introduced the Stage 4, which improves a little bit. I say they've introduced it; they're teasing it. I think it might have actually launched officially now. But the Nord Stage 4 has come out. I've never played one. I'm not a proficient keyboard player, and therefore have no need to have something of this quality. But I hear they are rather good. Anybody, Ben? Have you ever played Nord stuff like that?
Not this stage. No, I've had a couple of the Nord synths. Like the is it the lead and the wave?
Yeah, Nord lead. Yeah.
I do like these, and they're supposed to be really, really good, but they're touch pricey, aren't they? Was it like $5,000 for that one?
Well, I was just looking that the 88 key is 4,899 euros. The 73 key is 4,599. So you're effectively paying 300 euros for a few extra keys. And then the compact one isn't much cheaper. It's 4,299. So I think if you can afford 4,299, you can probably afford the big one. And then it's really just a case of which one can I fit in my.
I wouldn't like to carry it to a gig. I think that's going to be a fair weight in that.
Yeah.
They basically filled the hole left behind from Kurzweil.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and they're really popular for people who do tour.
Yes, they are massively popular in the live environment, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that was probably the least interesting one, but this one got me quite excited. I've not heard of this company before. I think this might be their first venture, but this is Kiviak Instruments, and they have got this new device called the Wo-Fi sampling keyboard. But it looks a little bit more interesting. I'm just trying to find a decent picture of it here. But it is actually a proper sampling keyboard that connects to the cloud, and you can actually download stuff directly into this thing, I believe. There's not a huge amount of information going on about it. I mean, I really want to know what this slot here is for, or is that just visual stuff. There's not a lot of information, and we're told that it's going to be premiered sometime in August. And their website has no information, only their Instagram page, which is just full of some of these photos. But kind of like the idea of having a sampling keyboard again.
Can you just hold it over the circuit board again?
That one?
Yeah, that's the puppy. Just waiting for it to come up on the other monitor. Come on. There we go. Okay.
And this means?
I don't know. I'm just getting a kind of tinsy vibe.
Oh, okay.
From it.
A Raspberry Pi vibe.
Indeed.
There's not much room for any processing in that case.
No. Probably why it connects to the cloud. It just does simple playback, doesn't it?
It looks like one of the early Casio things, doesn't it? It's got like a real, like, kind of retro Casio look, like the...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking sample it, load it, tweak it, change it, share it, carry it, play it, record it. So it seems like it's like this all-in-one thing that, you know, does connect to the internet. And but yeah, it looks interesting, but we don't have anything really more than that. Is that a touch strip there on the bottom there? Just below the screen? Could that be some sort of touch strip?
It's possible. Got the right sort of indentation for it, anyway.
Is it me, or it does look like it's photoshopped onto something? Like I'm having perspective.
There's depth issues, isn't there? Here, sort of like here it looks kind of recessed, but then here it looks the opposite of recessed, whatever that might be. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting that there's a button here for Wi-Fi, so it's like, you know, press that, you can connect to whatever Wi-Fi is there. Then there's also this button to the left of the screen called Cloud, and another one called Cart. And there was some speculation. I think Robin, who wrote this article up for Gear News, posited that it might be a shopping cart, and then somebody said that's not a shopping cart, it means the cartridge, and maybe that's what that thin slot on the right hand side is. So, but we really don't know. But it looks quite interesting.
It wouldn't be a shopping cart. It'd be a button saying buy.
Well, yeah.
Is there anything on the circuit board that would indicate that slot is?
No, when I look.
No, it seems to be underneath the board.
Yeah. So there it is there.
Yeah.
So
it's probably where you put your credit card.
But actually, no, I thought that as well, because it doesn't look like any sort of standard memory card, because you'd expect if it had a memory card in there, it would be an SD card of some description. That's way bigger. That is credit card sized.
Yeah.
By
the samples off the cloud.
Not
I do like the speaker grill though.
Yeah, it's quite cool. The visual design on it is honeycomb thing.
I like that. I'll have that. Can I just have that?
Just that.
There's even a tiny speaker for the headphones as well. Look.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting looking thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I'm interested to see what this is all about, because the other thing that kind of bothered me, because we laughed about that credit card slot, but if you go to the their actual website, Kiviak Instruments website, which I need to then stop this. I wish there was an easier way of doing this.
Get somebody else.
They are actually kind of an IT company.
Oh.
They specialize in design management and management of cloud platforms and so on and so forth. But they're a French company. Cool T-shirt, by the way. Got to say,
of course.
They did that just for you, Rob.
Indeed. But yeah, Kiviak Technologies is one thing. Kiviak Instruments is a sort of a dedicated electronic music brand. Oh, cute polar bear.
That's okay then, because otherwise it would have been, the first keyboard that does data collecting.
But it just made me a little suspicious that here's a company that's its primary function seems to be in terms of IT and cloud stuff. Now they're making an instrument that connects, and there was a little bit of sinister.
And has a credit card
There'd
slot.
be easier
I'm
ways.
getting, I'm getting
easier
web,
ways of getting your info than a synth, though, weren't there? You know.
Well, it's true. There's YouTube for a start.
Yeah.
but I'm getting Web3 NFT sort of vibes
Yeah.
just from the website. You know.
But there you go. More on that as we hear about it. I was hoping that maybe, so the rumours are that it will be debuted at a thing called the Insane Festival in August, wherever that might be. But maybe it'll be something at Super Booth, Ben, that we can go and check out. That'd be cool. Because of course we are going to Super Booth.
Yes.
I should do something with that, shouldn't I? Anyway, so Kiviak Instruments, the Wo-Fi sampler, which who knows what it is.
Woefully named. Yeah.
Woefully named, yes, indeed. I think the only other thing that we were going to talk about, and it came up really sort of last minute, and we have a couple of resident Cubase aficionados in our midst. But I spoke to one before we came on air and said, "Have you tried it?" He said, "No." Have you tried Halion 7 yet, Kent?
No.
Okay. So we're not going to be talking about this a lot. But Halion 7 has
I didn't know it was
launched.
out.
Now there you go. It came out yesterday, and it's got obviously the sampling engine, but it's now got a pretty powerful FM engine in there as well. So this FM thing is kind of catching on now, isn't it? Oh, you naysayers. But yeah, I looked
like
at that
weeds.
interface. Well, yeah, I looked at that interface.
Green. Yeah.
And I thought there was a degree of UVI Falcon going on there. Look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Instruments down the left, main design window in the middle, choose your banks over here on the right. It smelt very much of UVI Falcon, which of course wouldn't be at all surprising. But
It could have had a hand in it, I suppose.
Well, UVI, I don't think we covered this last week.
Yeah.
But UVI have been acquired by
Fruity.
the Image line, isn't it? But people that own Fruity Loops in Belgium.
Yeah.
So yes, UVI are no longer their own thing. They're part of was it Image Line Studios? I think I can't remember the name now.
That's right.
Yeah, interesting thing.
Don't know how that'll pan out. Like,
Business as usual at the moment, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I need to speak to my colleagues at UVI and find out what's going on.
So I didn't. I was interested in this because I do use Halion quite a bit, and I went to download the free one, but it says that it has no sound content whatsoever. There's a couple of free packs that you can download with it as well, but I just wondered if it was gonna mess up stuff that I'd used in the past, with me. Would it overwrite me Halion, and then I won't be able. So I didn't want to risk it. That was the reason I haven't tried it, but I probably will buy it because it is something I use a lot.
Yeah,
I've never really gelled with Halion.
I think it's dead easy to use. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just I just never sort of like I've always had Contact as my go-to and recently Falcon.
Yeah.
Well, Falcon, I've got Falcon already, so.
Well, it's the same before we
really
came
need
on air
anything
that
else.
Halion always kind of was lower down the list. I never really kind of got to it. Never had any need for it, so just completely ignored it. I did download the Halion Sonic last version because it was free, but I used it once and then it just never come out again. So. But if you want the Halion 7, it's out now. Full version £300.
Horses for courses.
Collection 214.
I was saying earlier, I did like their FM engine on it. Visually, it seemed very easy to use, and I like the fact that there was a little a dot that actually shows you the speed of each section of the envelope.
Yes,
it's actually very handy for crafting stuff. Maybe there's another VST that does stuff similarly, but I haven't seen one.
Yeah.
It's good they got a free version, so you can have a crack at it.
Yeah,
anyway.
you can get an idea of what it's all about.
Yeah, see if you gel with it or not.
Indeed. So there you go. That's Halion 7 out now. So I want to come back. We've got like 20 minutes or so. I want to come back to Ollie because this man said to me a few weeks ago, I don't know why you want me on your show. I'm not really a synthesizer guy, says he. And then this popped up on my news feed, although it popped up apparently because you'd moved it from one channel to another. And I said, "Oh, look at this new thing you've done," and he said, "It's not new." But this is, well, I'm sure the video will actually explain all of this. So let me just bring this up here and play a little bit of this.
If you told me back in 2014 when I started this channel that I would at any point be making a sample library from an old Soviet synthesizer, I would have laughed at you. And today, it's exactly what I've done. This is the manual, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, Soviet synth. It's essentially a Vox organ, electric organ type of piece of kit. And you would have seen it in a lot of my videos. I was gifted this a few years ago, and I've used it on a few videos now at this stage. Now, I've done a full video on acquiring and testing out the synthesizer before I even used it on any cover, so I will put that here. You can have a look at that first if you want to see the context behind this instrument. It's got 4 octave registers, it's got a filter, high pass, low pass, and it's got a very rudimentary ADSR, which is a tag, delay, sustain and release. In fact, it only has a sustain and release, so you can't change the attack or the decay. There's a very crude low frequency oscillator if you want to create a little shift in the register. So what I've done is I've sampled each note and recreated this the synthesizer as a virtual instrument. I did a lot of scripting behind the scenes just to enable the filter and a full, this time, ADSR. Anyway, enough talking, let's have a look at the manual synthesizer. So what we have here is the 4 registers that you would have on the synthesizer. So we got the bass register, and you can increase the volume of each, and the last one. So by combining them, this is where it gets interesting, or this is where it's similar to the actual synthesizer, is you get those. So by combining them in different patterns, you get those interesting and different type of sounds. If you don't want any bass, or if you just want bass and highs. And this is where the crafting starts getting interesting. Similar to the other one, I've added the sustain and release, but I also added an attack and a decay. So let me decrease all of these. We'll probably need some form of decay. So the attack will inform the engine on how quickly the volume needs to rise, as you would find in synthesizer. If you're not familiar with synthesizers in general, maybe look up ADSR and have.
Oh, there you go. You can go watch this on BG Ollie's channel. How do you pronounce it again?
It's supposed to be manual, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you come across that?
I should really scrape my videos.
Where did you find it?
I found it in a lady had one in Galway on a website called Free Cycle, which is so people who want to get rid of stuff just advertise stuff on Free Cycle and you go and pick it up. And that was really it. So it was our sons who had moved to Canada, and he'd left some stuff in his room and they wanted the stuff out. And asked him to, maybe organize selling it and that kind of stuff. And 3 years later, he hadn't done anything. That was after I found out after picking that up. But anyway, so she advertised that, so I went over and picked it up. And with it was there was a Mackie controller as well, like a huge thing. There was a few instruments as well. And I was only happy to take them. I couldn't take everything for free, so I left $50, but that was really it. And I came back home with that thing. And I wonder if the son found out afterwards. I think they were just going to skip it anyway. Yeah, and I don't know where he got it from. I would have loved to know the story of that. Where he got it, because it's all in Russian and it's all written in Cyrillic on it. But it's a Soviet. I found one source of for it on the manual and schematics online. It's only one source that had them. But yeah, it's a Soviet era Vox synthesizer, really.
Yeah. Have you done much sample or instrument creation within the Contact frame?
Yeah, I done 3. So I done this one. I've done one with those kind of crappy wooden flutes that you find at flea markets and cat sales and charity shops.
Yeah.
So I usually buy them for a euro, and then you come home and you realize they don't work. That's the end of that. But they do sound cool. They have that wooden kind of vibe. So I had about 4 or 5, so I sampled them all and made an instrument out of that for because I have a UE, because one of my main instruments is the flute. So I have a UE that I wanted to be able to control the library with that. So I have that, and I made another one called the Randoline, which is just notes played on same note played on different instruments, but just randomized, and at different octaves as well. And so it's kind of a pad type of texture sort of instrument. So I used it on one composition so far, but so I've put those on Piano Book. They're available for free on Piano Book.
Of course, yeah. Which is a great resource. I think I got this one from there, and they're all free.
They're all free, yeah. I have more because I've made more as well. I have a ton of weird instruments as well here, so I need to release them at some point.
Yeah,
but yeah,
cool stuff.
Right.
Ben, have we got any questions in the chat?
I haven't been paying attention.
I haven't seen any.
I'm sure there's at least one in there.
Yeah, there is. I'll start with Chris Brightley's question. Thanks for making your new modules. What are your thoughts on software and hardware integrated solution like TNT Audio and Korg NTS1 for DIY audio projects?
I don't have any of these, but they're cool devices. I mean, anything that just forces you to make your own little kind of sounds or device or craft in any way, I like that very much. Like I like anything DIY in general, so anything that encourages that. I heard the the NT
NTS1.
S1. It like you can script stuff for it. Is that the idea? Yeah, I mean, and turn it into pretty much any number of things. Am I correct?
Yeah. It has space for oscillators or effects. And
what a wonderful thing! I mean, that's great.
And it's £89. You know, it's
okay. I might look into that then. Yeah, so many things, though. So many projects.
I know, yeah.
Was there another one there?
Oh yeah, there is. I'm not going to be able to pronounce that. Has Ollie ever had the opportunity to download Suzanne Kiani's audio samples from a Xenon pinball machine?
No, but there was a video recently that went around. Was that her sampling her voice for a pinball machine? I'm not sure.
It could have been.
Yeah,
could have been. I'm sure Manny. If Manny,
can't remember where I've seen that. But no, I don't have those. Okay.
And there's another one coming in just from Jason. What's the best retro piece of music equipment you have worked on in the shed?
I haven't worked on a ton of stuff really, music-wise. But so I mean, that DX21 would probably have been, because it wasn't more like there was a few keys that were dead, and yeah, it really those three synths were the only ones I really kind of sort of restored in any sort of way. Like the core game one had so many broken buttons, and it wasn't taking MIDI in, so I couldn't reprogram the patches. It had lost all the patches. What it ended up being was I couldn't, because I changed the opto for the MIDI in, and that didn't fix anything. And I was maybe another one to fix. I could see the signal. I could see the signal going in, but it was, nothing was coming out of the IC, and it was one of the tiny legs. It's an SMD chip, so tiny legs had slightly not broken off, but yeah, the solder lifted.
Yeah.
So I just reflowed the whole chip, and that was it. I was able to reprogram it.
We've got a late entry in from Magical Synth Adventure. Who wonders, whoever that is. What's your favorite computer sound chip overall?
I love the Konami SCC, because that sort of brought an NES like sound to the MSX, and there was like a beautiful sort of wavetable, and so we were stuck with square waves for so long on the MSX, and suddenly you could get all the kind of these really cool shapes and sounds and full chords. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would have been that. Yeah, Konami SCC. Unfortunately, there's no schematics or anything like that available. There's been a few empirical FPGA sort of repros of it, but it's still. I'd love to see a drop-in replacement for that one IC. Probably won't happen.
Hopefully that's answered Paulie's question. Also, just got to say a big thank you to Simon Greatbatch for your £10 donation via Super Stickers. Thank you very much indeed. They'll help cover some of our expense. We've had some big expenses in the last couple of weeks. Of course, the big one. Yes. So
getting me a spray tan.
Well, you're not going to get one in Berlin, I tell you, not in May. Anyway, yes. So I just wanted to say, because we've just mentioned Paulie there, that Paulie and I were on a show on Wednesday that if you haven't had a chance to check out, it was an hour and a half of just three people talking rubbish about 80s pop music. Robin Vincent invited myself and Paulie onto the show under the premise of did the 80s kill pop music? And I don't think we actually came to any conclusion. I think that the 80s might have inflicted a small flesh wound on pop music, but other things probably killed it off. And some of the comments that have been coming up on there have been fun and some not so much, but it was a really good hour and a half. So if you've got a spare 90 minutes and you don't mind listening to me and Robin and Paulie drone on about our love of all things 80s, or not so much love of all things 80s in Robin's case, he has made some very good points. It's well worth a watch.
Has he done more videos like that? That was actually a very cozy chat type of video.
He's done a few, yeah. Yeah, so it was a pleasure, and when we finished it, we thought maybe we can do something similar, maybe carry it on, or maybe talk about another decade or something, just like Angry Old Men, get off my lawn. But yeah, because certainly Robin and I think we're pretty much the same age, so we kind of lived through it, and Paulie was born during it, but has a deep affection for it. So it was great to hear their point of view, and Paulie made some excellent points. So it's a really good thing to watch. If you're not doing anything this weekend, go and give that a like and a subscribe and a share around. That pretty much kind of brings us almost to the end of the show. I don't think we've got anything else. So we've done that. We've done the synth. We've done that. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure as always. Let's just go around the room. Ollie, what's on your plans? In the immediate future, any interesting projects or new videos that we can expect to see coming up on the many channels that you run?
I finished this week work on and I signed the contracts on a new video game as well. So I have a couple of tracks coming for. I can't say what, I'm under NDA, so yeah. Nice. And more of the same really on the channels.
Yeah, cool stuff. How about you, Kent? Anything interesting coming in through the workshop at the moment?
God, it was mental this morning. 8:30 in the morning, doorbell's gone, and there's 2 memory moogs and a Whiteface Odyssey.
How did they reach the doorbell?
Oh, mate, I don't know why we have a doorbell. The amount of noise the dogs make.
Well, yeah.
And then I went to make a coffee, and the doorbell went again, and it was a guy with an SH-101.
Okay.
And about half an hour later, the doorbell went again, and it was a bloke with a Mini Moog, he wants a Paul Reese store. And it's like, and then a CS60 turned up.
As you do.
As it does. But by the time the CS60 was in the door, I couldn't get back in the front room. I had to go out the front door, round the back, and come in the back gate. Because I couldn't get in at the front room anymore because it's just packed.
With synths and dogs.
Yeah, because they've all got packing. Yeah, because they've got all the packing on them, and they're much bigger than when they're unpacked. Yeah, so I bloody locked myself out, basically.
Oh dear! Did you get the CS80 that you posted a picture of, the Paulie CS80 that's got fixed?
Yeah, she's all back
cracked
together now.
PCB,
Yeah, she's all back together now. She's all singing and dancing.
One day.
Good stuff. Benjamin, are you gigging at all now? Are you back into gigging yet, or?
Not yet. No, we've got one. Part of our PA blew up. Yeah, we were doing a gig, and like, just, you know how sometimes you just got to try and come up with a solution, get you through the situation. The top speaker on the right hand side had become intermittent, so I had this idea of swapping the wedge monitors with the top speakers and using the intermittent top speaker as a monitor, and we just mustered our way through the gig like that. It looked hilarious though, because the wedges were tiny on top of the stacks. It sounded all right. Sounded great. We got through it. So
that's all.
Because the crossover was still sending all the right stuff to it, so it worked, but it was just a bit scary. So we're getting that fixed. And then the next gig we've got, we don't need a PA for, so we're okay with that. That's like a theatre gig.
Oh, nice.
But we're going to need it sorting out pretty sharpish. And that's it, really. I think that's in March. Our first gig is March at some point. So
nice,
we've still
relaxing
got
break.
a little bit of time off, which is great.
And what are you doing in the studio then?
Well, I'm supposed to be mixing the Electromantics album.
Oh yeah.
And I've done some of it. But I keep getting distracted by other things, and I've made about 10 songs with a new piece of software I've got. I'm just writing loads of stuff. I'm really enjoying it, because with not having be up for work, I'm just like, you know, I get in the studio late on, and it's like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still going. So that's good.
Good.
But I think I will be having a look at Ollie's channel as well. Go and find all his favorite computer game soundtracks and having a listen to what he's done to them, because it sounds great.
You'll find the Bitmap Brothers stuff there anyway.
They're proper rabbit holes. I tell you, they really are. If anybody else wants, all the links are underneath there for all the channels. So if you're into the,
I think there's about 300 tracks altogether.
Wow,
lots of stuff. Lots of really good stuff.
How long does it take you to roughly make one of them? How many hours is in that 300 tracks?
It's hard to say, because I've a regular job as well, day job, so it's on free time. But about 2 weeks is about the norm for each
time investment there.
So I'd have a few going at a time, at the same time. Like if I record like bouzouki or banjo or something like that, I do it for a few tracks at it in one go.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
Nice one. Well, thank you, gentlemen, one and all. Your company, as always, has been fantastic, and we look forward to seeing you, Ben and Kent, at least next week. And Ollie, he's always hanging around in the chat, so hit him up there. And of course, go and visit his YouTube channels. And if you want to throw some sponsorship, you've got a Patreon as well, haven't you? Yep. So there's a Patreon channel, which all of that is linked into the YouTube channels. And if you want to buy modules, there is. We'll put the link up. But bear in mind, he's a busy man. You might not get it just yet. Slow stuff. I'm trying to think what I'm doing. I had a request come in this evening about going up to Edinburgh with a Fairlight and doing a demonstration. But then I saw the fee, and I thought it was the first time I've ever thought, I'm not getting out of bed for that. So I might not be doing that, but I'm slowly preparing everything for Synth East, which is the Robin Vincent show that's going to be happening at Norwich Arts Centre on March 4th. So if you want to come and see a fully operational, at the moment, DX1, TX816 and an FS1R and an RX11 and a QX1, that's what I'm taking. So if you want to see some of those really old classics, it's going to be all about the FM, because it's 40 years of the DX7 this year. In May, actually, is his birthday. 40 years old. So everything I do this year is going to be predominantly FM. So come and have a look at that. And marvel at our new banner. We've got a banner, everyone. A professionally made banner. And I'll even give you a business card.
Oh, wow.
If I like you. But yeah, so come and see us there. But yeah, that's what I'll be preparing for that. And got some new music to listen to. Got the new Orbital album, which came out today. So going to listen to that this weekend. And of course, don't forget, Ramsey, I believe, is on as per normal tomorrow, which is the show proper starts at about 1 p.m, but he normally starts up a little bit earlier. And do you know what I was about to say? Sunday, and then you think, no, Sunday, actually, no. But no, Sunday, we will have, of course, Jamie, 7 p.m, and then, of course, Sonic State on Wednesday and all the other stuff as well. So, yes, thank you, one and all. Thanks, everyone in the chat for your comments, and thank you to everyone for watching, whether you're on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back same time, same place next week. And we don't currently have a guest for next week, but we do have a couple of guests for the week after, which we can't tell you about just yet, but we will. And they are, at least one of them is a channel favorite. So make sure you bookmark that date in your calendar, because you won't want to miss that. Lots of cool stuff happening on that day. And yeah, loads more guests in the pipeline, so watch out for our Facebook page. Come and join us at the Facebook group. Just click on the join button, just answer a few questions to prove you're human, and then you'll get all the kind of the updates and the exciting things happening there. So until then, take care, have a fantastic weekend, look after yourselves, stay safe, and love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.